My name is Seema Mathur, and I'm a 2010 IRP Fellow. Because women were especially targeted in Liberia's 14-year civil war, I really wanted to look at how they were affected. So I started by looking at why rape was used as a weapon of war, and then wanted to look at the effects of that post-conflict and how individuals reconcile with that, and also how the country is reconciling and moving forward. The Minister of Justice said that rape is one of the highest crimes that they're seeing in Liberia right now. Definitely rape is reported more than it was post-conflict because there's been a lot of education to promote people reporting rape, so that can attribute to part of it. But the Minister of Justice does believe that at least part of that spike is from ex-combatants who might be raping. There's something like an 85% unemployment rate, and even talking to former warlords and former ex-combatants, they talk about that, you know, when they were fighting, they had all this power, and now that suddenly that's stripped away and they're unemployed, and it leads to a very frustrated group of people. It's a high number of children that are being raped. In fact, that number is reported more than adults, and that could also be because of the stigma that it's easier for them to report a child being raped than an adult. But that's quite high, as children as young as 1 year old being raped. I went to one clinic, and they told me that a small clinic that is, and they told me that they see, you know, at least 2 rape cases a day in Monrovia, and that most of them are children. And some say the reason for that is ritualistic rapes. A witch doctor might tell somebody, if you rape a child or a virgin under such and such age, then your business will improve. I really wanted to hear from both survivors and perpetrators to find out why certain atrocities happen. And one of the people that I interviewed was a man known by General Butt Naked, and he's known as General Butt Naked because he fought nude. He himself has admitted to being responsible for some 20,000 deaths. His background, he said, is that when he was 7 years old, he was selected to be a priest in his Kron tribe, and he learned human sacrifice at 11 years old. And then when then President Samuel Doe was in trouble, who is also of the Kron tribe, he was called to defend him, and that's how he got involved in the fighting. So that's many years later from being a child priest. One of the things that he did that ritualistically he believed protected his troops, he called it making them bulletproof, was to kill children and eat their hearts. Also, his faction committed all of the other atrocities that were named in the TRC report, like raping. So I thought, you know, who better to ask the question as to why did you command your troops to rape and why did you rape than him. And he explained it that when they would rape a woman, that it would make them feel bitter and angry, and that it was much easier for them to kill if they could get into a state of rage. And when the woman was fighting back, it would make them more angry and more able to kill. Since that point, he says that he's had a revelation that Jesus spoke to him during the last battle and has changed. He is now reaching out to other child soldiers and trying to preach to them and get them to change. And some people, you know, some people value that because a lot of the problems that are in Liberia now, when you look at theft and a high rape rates, some people blame that on ex-combatants that say never really properly got rehabilitated. So with his street credibility, I suppose he's reaching out to them. Of course, it's very controversial if anybody wants to believe him or not, but he also went before the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and was honest in his testimony and remorseful in his testimony, which the TRC says if a perpetrator comes and isn't honest in their testimony, they won't recommend them for prosecution. So he is not recommended for prosecution. The TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it started from the peace agreement in Ghana in 2003, and its purpose was to, one, find the root cause of the conflict, as well as promote healing, and then come up with recommendations for prosecution or amnesty for people that were involved in the war. But there are a lot of options in there because the way that I found that the Liberian community looks at justice as not how the West does. For instance, there's Palava Hut option that the president herself is allowed to take, which is going out into the community and saying, yes, I did this, and making an apology, and then the community can come together and say, okay, you know, we forgive you. So, so there's different ways of that people can, I guess, pay their debt. And in that, with the TRC, I should have said that one of the major goals of the TRC was to end a culture of impunity that has really plagued that nation. One of the great improvements in Liberia post-conflict is gender equality. There's been great strides made in that, from the first African woman president to several women that are in government, and just the sense of empowerment that women on the street even feel. There are messages on the radio all the time, several radio programs dedicated to education, and I think that that's really helped women feel empowered. And when I spoke to women everywhere, from a village in Robertsport to the city in Monrovia, and I'd ask them, you know, where were women in society before the war, and they would do an example of saying, before the war, women were here and men were here, and post-conflict, they say everything is equal. So, so I think that women definitely feel a lot more empowered now. I think part of that is from just being fed up as to what happened to them during the conflict. Some women even took up arms and became combatants themselves. I think that they just really just got a sense of unity and empowerment and said, we're not going to take this anymore. So it's improving.